Hello, I'm Henny Hale from Independent Dance in London, and I'd like to welcome everyone joining us here this evening. ID is delighted to be hosting our first live online performance event by the artists Mayfield Brooks, Mary Pearson, and Seke Chimwetengwende. Improvisations with interference, haunted by histories, guided by ghosts. As with all our hosting, we invite you to make yourself as comfortable as possible, relax, take a breath, have a drink with you. And this is to give yourselves a moment for a sense of occasion. So coming together in the spirit of lockdown, the artists have worked together remotely for a brief period this February, and will be joining each other and us in improvisations today from 3 different locations. Mayfield Brooks will be performing at the studio at CPR, Center for Performance Research in Brooklyn, New York. We respectfully acknowledge that CPR is located in Lenape-Hoking, the central and unceded territory of the Lenape people. Mary Pearson will be performing in the studio at Metal in Liverpool, and Seke Chimwetengwende will be performing at Siobhan Davis Studios in London. We'd like to thank all of these organisations for making this possible, especially at this time. Improvisations with Interference is part of a wider body of work, How to Be Afraid. It's an ongoing performance project led by Mayfield Brooks and Mary Pearson, and it explores fear as an antidote to counteract the trauma of their different but connected links to the transatlantic slave trade. So do look out for future iterations of How to Be Afraid. They'll involve participatory workshops, talks, and another performance event happening through ID in May 2021, along with other collaborating artists, Akeem Toussaint-Buck and Gaël Thiriot and Amy Voris. We gratefully acknowledge support for this wider project from Arts Council England, Blue Coat Liverpool, and CPR New York. This performance will last about 40 minutes. It will be live captioned in the chat bar to the right of your screen. And after the performance, we'll be taking a 5-minute interval break before a short discussion with Mayfield, Mary, and Seke. We would love this talk to be interactive, so if you would like to ask questions or make comments, please use the chat function in YouTube during the interval. We won't be able to use the chat outside of that period because it's being used for the transcription, but during the interval, we'd really love to hear your questions, and I will field questions to the artists in the discussion. So thank you very much, and please enjoy the performance, and see you later.
I'm afraid of my ancestors who cannot rest. I am afraid of my ancestors who have nowhere to go. I am afraid of my ancestors who don't know that they are my ancestors. I am afraid of my ancestors that are angry. I'm afraid of my ancestors in the Middle Passage. I am afraid of my ancestors. I am afraid. I am afraid of my ancestors. I am afraid of my ancestors who don't know what happened to their ancestors. I am afraid of my ancestors who will never know what happened to their ancestors. I am afraid of my ancestors who drowned. I am afraid of my ancestors who I am afraid of my ancestors who I am afraid of my ancestors who
I'm afraid of being identified. I'm afraid of being connected with my lineage to the people who spoke in a genteel Southern accent about how kind and how gentle and how musical their family was. My family were the kindest, gentlest people, and they were so musical. I'm afraid of how complicit the kindest, gentlest family were. How complicit were the kindest, gentlest family. I'm afraid of what my grandfather's grandfather got up to at night. What did my grandfather's grandfather get up to at night? I'm afraid of what they might have seen. What might they have seen? What terror? What souvenirs? I'm afraid of how deep is the cut. How deep is the cut I had to make between myself and my past? How deep is the split, and how invisible, how silent, how hidden, how one part of me has to be for the other part of me to grow and to be free? Distance between my two selves has offered me perspective, freedom, anonymity, reinvention. But I am haunted by the knowledge of what and who I am connected to. Of what and who I am connected to. The extraction of minerals from the ground and the labor from the people. Profiting from my ancestors' taste for extraction, and so I extract myself from myself, split into two selves, attempting to bury one and grow the other, but my buried self claws at me, scratches, claws and scratches in the dark, and says, I know who you are. They'll find out who you are, and when they do, you'll be exposed. I know who you are. They'll find out who you are, and when they do, you'll be exposed. And I am afraid. I am afraid of being cast out and despised and reviled. When the split is repaired and the two selves are reunited, hypocrisy between my intentions and my identity is revealed. What are you afraid of right now?
I'm afraid of the endlessness of it all. Do you know what I mean? Like how it just keeps going on and on and on. Like, it's like the endless winter followed by the endless summer, followed by the endless winter, by the endless summer. And it just doesn't stop. And it's a kind of, it's a treadmill, and you're on the treadmill and you just keep treading and treading and treading, and you look down at your feet and you see that you're treading on bones. You're treading on bones, all kinds of bones, human bones, animal bones, plastic bones, rubber bones, metal bones, gold bones, ivory bones. And you try and wake yourself up. You think you're dreaming. You try and wake yourself up, and you wake up and then you fall asleep again, and you wake up and then you fall asleep again, and you wake up and you wake up and you wake up, but you're still asleep again. And you wake up again and it's still winter. It's still winter, but it's also still summer somewhere. So you can't escape the seasons. You can't escape the seasons because they're always there somewhere. And it would be okay, but what if you just wanted to get out and get some fresh air and and leave. You can't leave because it's endless. It's just history, and that just doesn't stop. You can't leave history. Okay? 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 Okay.
Okay, okay. And you just keep tap dancing to that same song, and that same song keeps going and going and going. And you keep tap dancing because that's what you're trained to do. And because of what you're trained to do, the tap dancing starts to elevate and excavate. And the tap dancing starts to break down the floor. And the tap dancing starts to break down the wall. And the tap dancing is the thing that you keep doing because you don't know what else you can do because it keeps going, yeah? Yeah, it keeps going. You don't even know where it's going, but it keeps going. You keep tap dancing. And you keep tap dancing because you got the tap dance shoes. And you got the tap dance shoes because your dad bought them for you last year. And now you gotta do that dance. You gotta tap dance. You gotta keep tap dancing no matter what happens. You gotta keep going. Yeah, I get it. That's the way it happens. You gotta just keep tap dancing. You gotta keep going because everybody is afraid of stopping, or are we afraid of stopping? Do we love this? Do we love this like rewind, this like never-ending story? Do we love this? What is this? I mean, what is this world? Do we love this tap dance?
We have a poem here. It's called Whitey on the Moon. And it was inspired by some whiteys on the moon. So I want to give credit where credit is due. All right. That's it. A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night, cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, cause Whitey's on the moon. Well, I was already giving him 50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon? How come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special. To Whitey on the moon.
What are you afraid of right now? I'm afraid of being entirely reliant on the internet. I'm afraid of performance depending on the internet, and social life depending on the internet, and therapy depending on the internet, and who is watching me? And I feel like my camera is spying on me. Who is watching me? Who is collecting all this data? And what are they going to do with it? Why are they cataloging like this? Why are they cataloging all of us and our feelings and our thoughts and our social lives and our work? Why are they putting all of it into some kind of catalog? What is this? Is it, maybe it's just a time capsule. Maybe it's actually, maybe they're making a digital time capsule so that we've recorded as much of life as we possibly can before the end. But I mean, who knows whether or not this technology is going to be compatible with whoever finds the time capsule. I mean, that seems like it would be quite a problem to assume that whoever comes across this catalog of our therapy sessions and our social lives and our work and our emails and our screen dance and our I mean, I've been Zooming. I've got Zoom fatigue. I'm afraid of the ringing in my ears. I'm afraid of the burning in my eyes. I'm afraid of what is happening to my butt. I'm afraid of how my butt is expanding to fill the armchair so that I can Zoom more softly and for longer and for longer. And I'm afraid of how resilient I am, because I'm too resilient, because I can get used to this. I'm afraid of the fact that I can get used to this. I'm afraid of how used to this I can get. I'm afraid of how I can stay in my house all the time and be fine with it. I'm afraid of how I'm not necessarily needing to go out or see anyone or do anything or touch anyone. Yeah, I'm afraid that I don't necessarily need to touch anyone, because do you know what? I'm too resilient. I can get used to this. And you know what? You can tell me, oh, it's just a little bit longer, maybe a month or two, maybe another month or two. Do you know what? Maybe by Christmas, maybe by next Christmas. Because you know what? You guys did really well. I'm afraid of how well you guys did this Christmas. I'm afraid of how well you guys did. You celebrated those Zoom holidays and you did great. You did really, really good. You are brilliantly resilient, frighteningly resilient. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your family holidays for my Zoom catalog.
What am I afraid of right now? Now? Here? Well, I'm afraid of giving in. giving up. Going up, giving up and going up above the problems. Giving in and giving up and going up above the problems. Sitting at the table, having dinner, and then giving up, going upstairs, turning on the radio, going into the radio, being broadcast out across the world, diffusing with the atmosphere, becoming particles that float maybe outside of the atmosphere, and going up, going so far up that there's no up anymore. You're just out. And you're out, and you're not one anymore. You're many particles, and you're out there. We don't know where. We can't see you. We can't smell you. We can't touch you. I say you, but I mean me. But it could be you. It could be me. And we're out there dancing, I guess, in space. No oxygen, no way home, no way back. We can't get back. We have to start something new, something better, something bigger, something faster, something else. Something else. We have to start something else out there in space, dancing, apart, in little fragments. And I don't know what that's going to be like. Do you? I don't know. I can't tell. And that's a bit scary. And it may not even happen. And that's a bit scary because you've got to be prepared. And yet it may never happen. It may never come. It may never, this might be it. This might be real. We might think that it's not real. And then we turn the radio on and we go into the radio and go up, out, across the globe, out into space. And we're out there dancing and trying to build something better.
What are we afraid of right now?
I'm afraid of that river that's not there anymore. You know, that one behind school.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of what's in tap water. It's actually in tap water. I'm afraid of how do they clean the water in the sewer system to make it safe to drink.
Well, I turned on the tap this morning and there was no water. And I
I'm
was thinking
afraid.
I'd rather have that terrible tap water than no water. Because that's what I
I'm
had this
afraid of
morning.
drowning.
I used to be afraid of drowning until I almost drowned. I'm not afraid of drowning anymore because after I almost drowned, I had to learn how to swim again. But I used to be afraid of drowning. I'm more afraid of what drowning does to my mind.
I'm afraid of falling off buildings.
I used not to be afraid of flying, but now I am afraid of flying.
I'm afraid of where does all that plastic cutlery and those plastic cups go after every flight? Where does it go?
I'm afraid of being tired all the time. I'm afraid of just collapsing in the middle of a performance, in the middle of the grocery store. I'm afraid of collapsing in the middle of the street.
I'm afraid of falling asleep on the plane and then falling out of the plane with all my plastic cups and plates and forks and knives and just falling.
I'm afraid of how planes are messing everything up. Too much gas, too much diesel. I'm afraid of how the ice caps are melting, but I'm afraid that I don't even know what that means. And I'm afraid that that's just something that people say. And I'm afraid that because I don't know what that means, that when I say it, it doesn't mean anything. I'm afraid of nothing meaning anything.
I'm afraid that humans are a variant, that mutated from something, and that this mutation is actually more dangerous than the previous mutation, that we're a dangerous variant.
Well, it's like we used to think variety was good, and now we know variety is bad. And it's scary when what you think you know turns out to be wrong. And that's happening right now.
I'm afraid of having too many choices and not even realizing that I have too many choices, and I'm afraid of poverty. I'm afraid of my mom, and I'm afraid of how she grew up in poverty, and I'm afraid that I'll be poor again and again and again, and I'm afraid maybe I'm already poor. I'm afraid of how poverty is something that I don't even really know, but I think that I know, and I'm afraid that what I think I know is just another fabrication.
I'm afraid of getting stuck on this side of the ocean, and it won't be possible anymore to cross back over to the other side of the ocean. And so you just have to stay here, and you're on an island, and it's not possible anymore to cross on either side. You just have to stay on this island. And then it's like those dreams that you have where you're like in a band of random people, and you're just sort of rummaging around in the ruins of other people's houses, looking in their drawers and seeing if there's anything to eat.
But what are you afraid of right now?
Right now?
At this very moment?
I'm
Right
afraid
now.
of phone calls, unexpected phone calls.
I'm afraid that someone's going to break down the door where I am, and I'm going to have to call the police, or I'm going to have to figure out what to do. But I can't do that right now because I'm doing a performance. I can't figure out who's breaking down the door or what to do.
And someone's going to call me tomorrow and they're going to offer me £1 million, and it's what I always wanted, but I'm going to turn it down, and I won't know why, but I'll just turn it down straight away. Well, I don't know.
Are you afraid you're going to turn it down, or you know that you're going to turn it down and you're afraid that you know that you're going to turn it down?
Well, I don't know. You see, that's what I don't know, is that I thought I knew that I was going to turn it down, so I prepared for that, but now I don't know. And as I was thinking about this, I went outside and the ocean was gone.
What?
I was teaching a geography lesson, and I said to the kids, I said, come outside, have a look at the ocean just for a few minutes. And I went out there and it wasn't there. The big one, the big ocean, gone.
Could you walk across it?
No, there was nothing. It was
Nothing.
like, there was just a big hole. So I asked the kids to start building a bridge, and they complained that was for a different class, that they weren't supposed to be building things in geography. And I really lost my temper. I just shouted at them.
Oh,
and now I'm
of
afraid that I'm
losing
going to be
my temper like
fired.
that.
I'm afraid I'm going to be fired.
I'm afraid of losing my temper like that.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner, because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run, or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will think on the rare earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
What are you afraid of right now?
What are you afraid of right now?
Okay, we're back live. Hello, welcome back, everybody. I'm here now in the live lab room with Mayfield Brooks, Mary Pearson, Seke Chimatengwende, and we're going to just have a little brief chat about what we just saw. There's been some lovely comments in the chat, but I want to thank you, all three of you, from myself really, because I found that really sort of provocative and moving in a lot of ways, and actually, yes, haunting completely. Some imagery and sort of kind of glimpses of emotional state that were really amazing to grasp in this way. I suppose I'm going to start off with the first question, first of all, to kick off. And it's just to sort of say something about the process in this time. You know, we're working this pandemic time, and this kind of almost time traveling process of having to sort of work across two continents and separate locations and having a very short period. And what is it for you as artists creatively and coming together, and how has that process been for you? Don't know who to ask first. Anyone can jump in.
Well, first thing is to figure out what time to start. So 10 a.m. New York and 3 p.m. or 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. are good starting times. That's the first thing to figure out, right? And then say good morning when it's actually the end of the day for you.
And also, I think we were supposed to originally do this in December, right? And then it was moved to last week and this week. So there's that kind of time travel as well. Yeah.
Yeah, the constant leaping ahead. Yeah.
There's something about having not having expectations of what will happen, or if anything will happen, or how much will happen. And then it's kind of surprising when something is able to come out of these really strange conditions for rehearsing. You know, but I think we've been really soft about it, of like, don't pretend that this isn't. I mean, Mayfield, you've been really great about reminding, like, let's not pretend that this is a usual condition and try to push on as if it were, because everybody's, you know, finding their way through this for the first time. And yeah, it's pointless to have expectations that are too demanding when we all don't know how this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the improvisations with interference is a perfect way to frame this work, because there's the inevitable interference always happening, whether it's like, you know, people being like internet going in and out, like it's been a lot of interference in that way. But I also feel like there's memory interference, and I love that, you know, we've spent time together enough to kind of interfere with each other's memories and voices, you know, like stories that we've told each other through improvising with each other. And so that's been an interesting kind of interference, like something that Seke may have said, you know, our first rehearsal may still be in my body or something, or, you know, a gesture. There's a gesture that, and then this way in which, like, Mary and I, we've been working together for a couple of years, you know, but there's been interference in our process, actually many years. So yeah, just kind of this temporality that's stretched out and punctuated in different ways.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's sort of quite interesting looping of image process, constant sort of revisiting or reminding for new stuff. It's great. I have some stuff in the chat here. Should we move into that? There's some really nice. How much was live or pre-recorded? How much was scripted or improvised? Alice also. She also says she really wanted it all to be live. I wanted you to be doing it all off the cuff, somehow craving liveness. The way the voice was used brought me very close to what was happening. So I don't know if you want to give that sort of stuff away.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of it was live. There was a bit of footage from yesterday, but most of it was live. And then, yeah, the text was, I think, mostly improvised, but there was some bits that were written. But again, I don't know, can't remember now how much of that written text was actually read out.
Yeah, there was one written text, but again, it was written yesterday. So what was written or recorded was the very recent past, right?
So improvising speaking, improvising moving. And so for me, like I had prompts, some of which I used today and some of which I didn't, which were just phrases like, I'm afraid of this or I'm afraid of that. But we had the question, kind of the main question of what are you afraid of right now, as a kind of anchor for the text.
Which we started as a practice together in June, just as a conversation. So improvising with the words and answering the question, what are you afraid of right now? And I would say also that the answers to the questions got kind of collected over the last 2 weeks, so that we started to take on each other's material as a collection from the last 2 weeks. I took on other people's fears.
We've had someone saying they appreciated being able to watch this, listen online, and also move in my own space, reflect at the same time. And that's kind of a big kind of a common thing of this permission suddenly that we have in these times as watchers to be sort of more active if we want to, or to watch in kind of different ways. And that's really, I really appreciate and like the fact that you were there moving yourself with them. I think that's great. Someone says, Tom Hastings, how did it feel watching each other move? The juxtaposition of your gazes and moving bodies created a haunting effect. And then, this was incredible, thank you. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. How do you feel watching each other move?
I feel like my experience with this is that I feel like after a few days, I'm more in a real space with you than at the beginning. And I've had that experience with another project, working with some people over a week on Zoom. And at the beginning, it's kind of annoying. But by the end of the week, it really feels like, even like at the beginning, we were joking, like, could you pass me that thing? Because it almost feels like we're able to touch. I don't know. I feel that. Yeah. So that's one thing.
Yeah, it's like there's a process between, at first it feels like a flat surface, like a mirror. And then over time, it starts to feel like you can imagine the depth of the other person, as you would feel them in the space with you.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of boldness that can happen with just looking right at the camera, like bringing everything to like the front, this kind of like, and then the I don't know, these different like proximities and distances, and it's very different, a different kind of dancing with periphery and vision, and cross over in relation to the frame of the camera, but then also in relation to the frame of the other person's camera, and how like you can sometimes even become one body or a limb of another body, or, you know, there's ways to, I feel like I was playing with that, like becoming, you know, like just another person's shoulder or something.
I have, shall I field some more? There's a great question here. Is it possible to be both afraid whilst being hospitable to the ghosts? So we have there's quite a few coming in around this notion of fear, actually. I wonder what you think of that one.
I mean, I think for me, there's something about taboo and the kind of like the naming. There's something that happens in the naming that changes the fear somehow. I don't know if that translates into being hospitable.
I think
but yeah,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's like in the naming, I'm saying, okay, I want to get to know you. Like I want to acknowledge you, rather than I got to keep pushing you down because you're too scary.
And this is the same person, Max Monday, is asking, how do you feel that the question, what are you afraid of right now, relates to those deeper, longer historical memory-based fears or choices? So maybe it's that sort of, there was a lot, I noticed that too, there's this sort of notion of the nowness, fear of the now place, and then how that connects back into the history.
I think that, you know, for me, the way that fear works is that like, it's almost like touching, you know, like when you touch something hot by mistake, and it's just like, maybe it's a light touch and it's like, oh, ouch. But then there's the other kind of fear where like, you know, there's a pan in the oven and it has a handle and you forget that it's hot and then you grab it. And that's another kind of fear. And the burn is like, could be the ghost. You know, those two different kinds of burns are going to feel different and are going to have a longer lasting effect. And I feel like the ghosts are like those burns for me, like the ghosts of like slavery, for example, you know, like that is like the burn that will last beyond me. I'm inconsequential. That ghost is bigger than me. It's kind of fills all of the space. But then the ghost of, you know, something that I might feel regretful about might pass. There's certain ghosts that won't go anywhere. They won't leave me alone. And that's, for me, what this conversation is somewhat about.
Ghosts want something, don't they? I mean, they're persistent, and so it's no use to ignore them, right? Because they want something. Like for me, more I don't welcome them, more persistent they're gonna be.
Yeah. I think we've got time for one more. Is that okay? There's one from Michaela Girusi here. I'm curious your choice to include the recorded audio and music of Gil Scott-Heron. Is that right? Is that the Revolution piece? Revolution will not be televised. She says that called in a strong and beautiful additional voice in the space for me. Don't know if anyone wants to comment on that. And there's also one, there might be a comment on that. And then there's one here. I'm afraid of being afraid all the time, and that fear is the currency of regime and control, question mark. I'm afraid of fear, which births more fear. And then, can we alchemize fear? Did you feel alchemy and catharsis of fear through your bodies in movement? That's a question.
Are you muted, Seke? Oh, it's me.
I can't hear Seke either.
Okay. Seke, can you speak? Oh.
No.
Now there's a ghostly moment.
Go see a moment, yeah.
You don't look like you're muted, Seke. It might be the earbuds have gone. Seke might have to leave and come back.
Can
Or
you?
refresh. George said refresh.
Yeah. Does it come through if I speak?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry, everybody. Technical.
You want to talk about Jill Scott Heron?
Oh yeah. Just for this piece, I just started collecting music and text, anything. And there was a rehearsal where we were talking about dreaming, and there was a Gil Scott Heron song about dreaming. And then we ended up not using that one. And we ended up going with Whitey on the Moon and The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. And the instrumental was Kamasi Washington. And it all just came up through our conversations WhatsApp, because we had kind of an ongoing conversation on WhatsApp where we were just sharing thoughts and material.
And something too about the kind of time traveling. So bringing something in, from now, bringing in something from the 70s, bringing in something from a long time ago, and that kind of time traveling between now and somewhere else, and the same thing, some of the same issues and fears and predictions and struggles are there throughout.
Cool.
What was the other question now?
I think second.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, the like something about, can't remember how it's phrased, but something about working through fear by moving or transforming fear. So yeah, I actually felt that during this performance. Like I felt like when it finished, I felt like I feel less afraid of stuff. Like not necessarily like this situation, but like in general, like things that I was like sort of afraid of, worried about. It's like, oh, something is transformed through. Yeah, and I think it is not only speaking but moving. It sort of disrupts something. So I think, yeah, I experienced that.
Almost like metabolizing it sometimes, digesting it.
That is great. I think we're in overtime now. And I'm sorry if anyone's asked anything that I've missed. It's quite a bit to scroll through. But there's been some great comments, and thank you all for being here and listening and watching and holding this event somehow, even though we can't see you. There's a sort of sense of you all being there, out there somewhere in your own spaces and places. So it's nice to connect virtually, It's the only way we can. And I just want to say another huge thank you from everybody, ID especially, to Mayfield, Mary and Seke for putting this together, suggesting it even, going for it, and and sharing this part of this process, and your kind of super interesting journeys together. It's great to have seen it. Say bye-bye to everybody and thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting us.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for hosting.